you do have somebody on the line now who is getting older and wiser and writing better than ever.
He's probably a very busy man right now. Todd Zolecki, thank you for making a few minutes to join us. Your new book is out, Doc, The Life of Roy Halladay. Great timing, great reviews out there. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
We cannot complain. We've been reading the book all week. Jeff has been cramming and telling me about which chapters I need to go to. It's been a very fun read. To be honest, I am beyond impressed with just how many people you talked to for this book. You talked to over 100 people. Where did this come from, and how did you get here to the end product?
Yeah, Roy obviously had a great baseball story to tell, which is, first round draft pick, almost throws a no-hitter in a second big league start. It has a terrible 2000 season, a historically terrible 2000 season. Still has the single season highest ERA in baseball history, as a matter of fact. Gets sent down to A-ball and then kind of resurrected his career both mentally and physically to become a Hall of Fame pitcher. So that always intrigued me. I wanted to kind of dig into that and how does somebody go that far down from being that far up and then just kind of come all the way back up again. But the other part that always interested me about Roy was after his career was over, he wanted to kind of give back. He struggled so much mentally throughout his life, on the field, off the field, and he really kind of hooked his wagon to Harvey Dorfman, the famous sports psychologist. Harvey passed away in 2011, and after his career, Roy said, I kind of want to do what Harvey did. I want to work with people on the mental side of the game, and that was amazing to me because you think about how much money he made, his stature in the game. Hall of Fame pitchers with $150 million in the bank don't go and work as a mental skills coach at a minor league complex. They just don't. They either just golf and fish the rest of their life, they become a broadcaster, they become a club ambassador, play a little golf. That's about it. And but Roy, I think, understood that he wasn't alone out there in terms of his struggles, and if he could help other people out, he wanted to do that, and I thought that was a very noble thing.
Todd, we've talked to in the last month, we talked to Don Carmen, who studied under Dorfman, and Jamie Moyer, who also credits Dorfman. What is it about this guy? Why is he revered in the baseball community, especially with pitchers, as much as he is?
I think the thing with Harvey, and talking to a lot of people that worked with him and knew him well, Harvey knew how people thought, he knew their fears. But in terms of like the psychology aspect of it, he wasn't this. Raul Ibanez, I use this quote in the book. He's like, Harvey wasn't a picture yourself on a boat on a lake with a cool breeze. He wasn't that type of guy. He was, okay, listen, I understand you're feeling this pressure. That's totally normal. You're a human being, but you know what? Suck it up. You're a big league ball player. You got to start acting like it. Like there was an accountability with him. He talked to players. There was a lot of tough love, and he talked to players unlike other people talk to him. I mean, these players have been coddled for most of their life, told how great they are, told that, you can do whatever you want to do. And I think Harvey gave them some real honesty that, quite frankly, they needed and they appreciated. And I think Roy was one of those guys. I mean, Harvey demanded accountability from Roy, and he got him thinking the right way. And for Roy, a big part of his success and his turnaround was thinking the right way, behaving the right way, acting the right way.
Roy was motivated after his career to want to help other people, but what I was most fascinated was your talk and the things that you found out about his upbringing, which kind of led to his motivation for the way that he wanted to act after his career. What did you learn that was most fascinating to you, or you considered the key to Roy's upbringing and what motivated him?
Well, what I thought was interesting was everybody kind of knew this story. It was almost kind of like became like a mythical thing or a mythological thing. His dad built him a pitching mound in his basement, and he would throw bullpen sessions, and he would work out. But it wasn't. It was. I mean, he had to work. It was work. It was almost like a job. He was pushed really hard as a kid. On one hand, without his dad pushing him really, really hard, maybe he doesn't become a first-round draft pick, make the big leagues, have a Hall of Fame career. On the other hand, I think it put a lot of pressures on him and affected him emotionally, and in a way that he carried with it his entire life, and so much so that, again, without being pushed that hard as a kid, maybe he doesn't have the career that he had. Maybe he doesn't make the money that he made. But I thought it was really noteworthy, and I wrote a lot about this in the book, that when he started to coach his two boys, he made a specific effort not to coach them like he was coached as a kid. He absolutely did not want his kids to feel pressure to succeed. He wanted them to do well. He pushed them to do well, but he didn't want them to feel like almost a dread of, if I don't succeed today, I'm going to get it. He made players and parents of players for his teams that he coached sign contracts, and for the parents, it was almost like a behavioral contract. You will not yell at your child when he's on the field. You will not yell at your child at practice, at games. You will behave a certain way. If you do not behave a certain way, you will not be allowed to attend the games. And if you don't follow that rule, then your son won't play. So you have a choice to make. He did not want kids to feel the way that he felt at times growing up, and I thought that was a very kind of poignant thing that he did late in his life.
Yeah, Todd, you had a great line in the book. They were not raising baseball players. They were raising young men who happened to play baseball.
Yes, and that was kind of the point he was trying to make, because, I mean, picture it, right? Like, if Roy Halladay lived here in Philly in the off season or whatever, or he was retired, and Roy Halladay was coaching your kid, or Roy Halladay was coaching your kid's, opposing team, like, you might be tempted to go up to him. And this is what happened to him a lot. Parents would come up to him all the time and go, what can I do to get my kid a D1 scholarship? What can I do to get my kid drafted? He's missing something. Give me some tips. Give me some tricks. And he would say, listen, you got to teach your kid to have fun first. He has to enjoy the game first and foremost. If he enjoys the game, then he'll want to work hard at it. And that was kind of his stock answer, again, because he knew the pressure that he felt, and he didn't like that feeling. So he wanted to instill on these parents, hey, don't push your kid. This is a game. Enjoy it first.
I asked John Barr last week of ESPN when we interviewed him with the documentary whether Roy was able to enjoy his success himself, because he was searching for that perfection. It seems to come through with the kids. At the same time, you mentioned his upbringing with his coach as his father. It sounded like in Toronto, his relationship with Jim Fregosi, Chris Carpenter as well, also sort of shaped what he didn't necessarily like as a coach. Can you talk a little bit about how that influenced him and played into the 2000 season struggles there?
Yeah, Jim Fregosi, famous, obviously legendary in Philadelphia for how he helped the 93 Phillies win the NL pennant. But a older Jim Fregosi, a hard scrabbled Jim Fregosi, did not mix well with Roy Halladay and Chris Carpenter. They were two young kids, high school draft picks, first-round draft picks, feeling a lot of pressure. And Fregosi had expectations for them, and Jim was not great for young kids coming up. He was great for veteran players, but Roy felt he kind of felt like Jim would almost have his hand on the bullpen phone as soon as he stepped in the mound, because he's like, this kid's going to blow it, I know it, so I might as well just get the bullpen up. And Roy felt like if he walked down the hallway and Fregosi saw him, he would go the other way. He would hear him, in his office, kind of ripping him, and that really affected him. And he basically all of his self-worth went with how other people looked at him, how other people treated him, what he thought other people thought about him. And that was kind of a turning point for him when he met Harvey Dorfman and started looking at Harvey Dorfman. He realized that he had to do it for himself. And once he started doing it for himself and stopped caring so much about what other people thought about him, his dad, his family, friends back home in Denver, Jim Fregosi, etc., things got a lot easier for him. It took the pressure off.
That clearly helped to get to his success. But in prepping for this book, like I mentioned, you talked to over 100 people. You got a sense of what people did think of him. Can you talk about some of the consistent stories you heard about Doc, either the man, the teammate, or the player throughout this?
Well, yeah, it was amazing how much everybody I talked to still think so highly of him, and it's interesting because after the way he died in the plane crash and everything, that the fallout kind of following that, you know how social media is, you see some pretty heartless things on there, and these people don't, Roy struggled, what happened, the aftermath is the aftermath. But that does not change their opinion of Roy Halladay. They thought he was a tremendous person, a tremendous teammate. I was amazed at how many people I talked to. I talked to a handful of people that would well up and shed a tear as they talked about Roy, because and not just like, I'm not just talking about Brandy. I'm talking about guys that caught him 10, 15 times during the 2001, 2002, 2003 seasons, and the guys that can't even really claim to be close friends with him, but he had such a tremendous impact on them that they carry that with them, that positive feeling that this guy worked hard, he cared so much, he was a good person. The same guy that dropped over $200,000 in watches for his Phillies teammates and clubhouse guys and bat boys after he threw his perfect game 10 years ago tonight.
Do you get a sense from talking to the players more recently that they're concerned about the stories that are now coming out about him, that they are getting defensive of his legacy?
I think they I just think that they want people to know that they don't want Roy Halladay's legacy to be that, and that's what I tried to accomplish in the book. I wrote about all of that stuff. The day that he died, and what was the struggles that were leading up to that, and the fallout after that. But I tried to kind of put it all into perspective, and so I think that's any former teammates that are maybe feeling that way. I actually totally understand it, because there was so much more to him than that. It doesn't change all the good things that he did, and all the good that he was. And like Brandy has said many times, like, everybody has a right to struggle. Like Roy Halladay, he's just a human, just like we all are. And the fact that he was struggling with his mental health, the fact that he was struggling physically, the fact that he was battling addiction, doesn't make him a bad person now. It doesn't take away all the good that he did. It doesn't mean he wasn't a good father and didn't care about his family and friends, because he did.
I enjoyed some of the catchers that you talked to throughout this, and it seemed like as he got more confident, his relationship with them changed. Can you talk about the fear that some of the catchers did have and the relationship they had with him?
Yeah, that was fun to talk. I tried to talk to as many catchers as possible, just because I thought they would have some of the best stories, and it turns out they did have some of the best stories. So early in his career, he was a young guy. He didn't have a lot of confidence. He would go into these meetings with the pitching coach and the catcher before game, and it was pitching coach and the catcher would kind of run through things. But as Roy started getting more confident, he started taking control, and he started to do a lot more homework on hitters, and he would keep notebooks and legal pads on different hitters that he would face, and he started to run those meetings. And it got to the point where he told the catchers, if I tell you I'm not throwing a cutter away to this guy, do not call for a cutter away to this guy, because I'm not going to throw it. And it was kind of funny. I talked with Brian Schneider, who caught him a few times with the Phillies, and he said, it's like, you'll go over this, and then all of a sudden the seventh inning, you're 90 pitches in, and you'll call for a backdoor sinker or whatever, and Roy told you 4 hours ago, no backdoor sinkers, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, and he'll step off the mound and look at you like, dude, 4 hours ago I specifically told you I was not going to throw this pitch to this guy, and then the catcher was like, oh, my bad. So there was a lot of that, but if he trusted you, and if you saw something as a catcher, he would also allow you to maybe veer off a little bit. It didn't happen often, but he would allow a catcher to kind of maybe go off script a little bit if they saw something.
What's it like to be somebody like you who writes stories day by day, to do this kind of project, to spend all of the time interviewing over 100 people? What's it like to finish that, and how proud are you of this project?
Finishing it was so much work, and I just wanted to do his story justice, and I talked to people about it. I said I was not interested in writing a salacious tell-all about the final years of Roy Halladay's life, because I do very much believe that there was so much more to him than that, and that does not negate all of the good that he did and all the great things that he accomplished on the field. And so I really took that task personally as I wrote the book, and so finishing it was very, very stressful, because I wanted to make sure I got it right. I feel like I did a pretty good job with it, and to have the reaction that I've gotten from people has just been tremendous. The people seem to be enjoying the book. They seem to kind of get the theme of the book, the idea that I had in writing it, and so that's been really nice. People have been saying a lot of really nice things.
Well, I read slower than Jeff, so I'm going to finish it, I promise. But we're definitely enjoying how it is. Before we let you go and give the book one more plug, I got to ask you, since we have you, is there going to be baseball this year, or are we just going to hear about a bunch of rich guys fighting all summer?
Yeah, I tell you what, if I was on talking to you guys last week, I would have said, hey, guys, relax, don't worry about it. This is all talk right now. It's just hardcore negotiating tactics. They're going to get this figured out. But after what I've read and heard over the past couple days, I'm a little bit more pessimistic. I still have to believe that both sides are smart enough, and they are smart, very smart on both sides, that if they would not come to agreement and just cancel baseball this season, that it would be really catastrophic for the sport. I really think back to '94, how hard it was to recover from that, and that was just, everything else in the world was fine. I mean, everything in the world right now is not fine, and so to not play baseball, I think, would just be so damaging. Hopefully they'll come to their senses.
That was my take with Jeff the other day. He, on the other hand, believes that while they're smart people, they are absolutely dumb enough to not come up with a deal. The book
I hope
is
he's wrong.
docked,
Jeff, I hope you're wrong.
I hope he's wrong too, believe me. He hopes he's wrong too. He would never like to be wrong more than for this. The book is docked, The Life of Roy Halladay. Todd Zolecki, thanks so much for giving us a little time. We wish you the best of luck with everything. We hope there's some baseball for you to cover soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Take care.
Have a great one.